My name is Benjamin Taylor, and this is my presentation over the Greenbone Vulnerability Assessment Project. So the goal of the project was to educate ourselves a little more on the dangers of having an open port on a server, um, and also get to put to use some of the skills that we've learned to find the hidden servers to begin with, and then some research to figure out ways to solve the vulnerabilities that were found through the Greenbone application. So Greenbone itself is the tool that we did use to assess our vulnerabilities through the server. And I found 15 high-level vulnerabilities in the Linux server that I was able to find. I was not able to locate the Windows server, and some of the most common solutions that we'll talk about here coming up is um, some pretty easy fixes like updating the application, installing an additional security package from the vendor website, or just making a simple configuration change. Um, so as for a technical summary, to conduct the assessment, we wanted to employ two key tools. These were Nmap and Greenbone. So Nmap is going to be the network discovery tool that is going to allow us to find any active hosts or services operating on the open ports. So it offers a detailed view of the network's layout, which is important for identifying any devices that may be hidden or misconfigured. And once the servers are located, we can use Greenbone then to perform the vulnerability assessment. So what Greenbone does is it runs a test on the identified open ports that are on the server, and Greenbone generates a thorough, comprehensive report detailing the vulnerabilities that were identified, and provide some recommendations on actions to take, and how to increase the security of the port or the application. As far as Windows goes, like I said, I was not able to find the Windows server. I used tools like Nmap. I tried resetting the virtual environment, and I also opened up Wireshark through the terminal, and recorded the packets coming through. And I wasn't able to find anything other than what you see here on the Nmap scan that I did. As you can see, you have .30, which I believe this was the hidden Linux server. All the other servers were from either previous assignments or just the default gateway, or the Kali machine itself that we were using. So to get into some of the findings for Linux, um, so we found 15 high-level vulnerabilities, as I mentioned, that all require immediate action. So starting with TCP port 6200, we found a backdoor vulnerability in the VSFPD file, which could allow an attacker to execute malicious command. This is particularly concerning because it can lead to having somebody access and compromise the entire application, which would be very bad. And anytime that an attacker is able to fully get through with no limitations is always bad news. On port 22, the FTP service that was this port um, also had a backdoor vulnerability, and the risk of a weak login credential. So it's important to always change default passwords, or if you do use a password, to not use something, basic like password 123 or something. Moving on to port 5432. This was PostgreSQL, and we found that this one was still using the default login credential, which is obviously a very significant security risk. And additionally, an outdated version of OpenSSL was present that made it vulnerable to man-in-the-middle attacks. So those were two issues that both need to be patched there. As for port 8787, this is our distributed Ruby service that we found could potentially allow an attacker to execute administrative commands remotely, which is very scary. And as for port 3600 or yeah 3632, DistCC is designed for distributing, compiling, and trust network clients by or trusts clients by default, but potentially allows malicious commands to be executed without a proper authentication method. And there are a lot of others here. Some other big names, big applications that I found were Apache. It was vulnerable to a remote code execution, and TWiki here was vulnerable to a cross-site scripting command execution, and PHP was allowing attackers to get some information from the source code of the application, which could allow them to do things like here in HTTP, where attackers were able to use the put and delete methods, which are very impactful to the app itself and could damage whatever work had been done there. So, getting into the recommendations and fixes for it. So, starting off with 6022, this one is um, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. This port, it would be best to just go ahead and update to the latest version that VS FPD has put out to close the backdoor vulnerability here. And again, like I said, a lot of these fixes are going to just be updating the application. So you'll see the same thing here with port 21, updating the FTP server, and using strong password policy will this should do the trick here. So changing the password to prevent the brute force attack, and then um, also updating the server itself, the FTP server. As for port 5432, changing that default PostgreSQL password is a no-brainer here. Pretty easy to do as well. And then don't forget to update that OpenSSL to the latest version so that it's protected against uh, vulnerabilities and increases the security of the application overall. And port 8787. Once again, this is going to be distributed Ruby. And what I found would be best would be to adjust the safe levels and utilize the ACLs to help restrict access to the sensitive information. And TCP port 3632, going back to DistCC. It'd be good to ensure that the application is updated through the website and to minimize any trust-based vulnerabilities that could be found here. And then um, port 1099, just disabling the class loading. Port 8009, just another update again. Same with 6697. Um, as for port 80, giving both an update to PHP and TWiki should resolve those problems. And then in the case for HTTP, you can configure that application to disable the user from even having the privileges to use put and delete, which will limit the uh, tools at an attacker's disposal. Um, port 1524 is going to be a cleanup of the system. So the ID command should respond with the UID and GID information. which is pretty sensitive and can be harmful if put in the wrong hands. And here's a photo of all the open ports that were used in Linux. So a lot of these you'll have seen in these past few pages or these past few slides that we've gone through. And this is the vulnerability ranking scale. So I found that the CVSS scale, sorry, it has a range of 0 to 10, and 0 to 4 is what they would call a low risk, meaning that it's a risk, but immediate action isn't entirely necessary or urgent. 4 to 7 is considered medium, and action is certainly required at this point. It's not an option, but it's not drastic and it doesn't need to be done today. And 7 to 10 is considered very high risk and require an immediate action be done to mitigate the risk and prevent somebody from cracking into the system. And then here are the references that I used. So, yeah, that's my presentation. Thank you for watching.